These are algebra notes for section 1-4. We are going to solve absolute value equations. So earlier in your math careers, you learned about absolute value and you learned that it was the distance from 0 on a number line. And we also learned that it's always positive. So if you're talking about how far you live away from school, if you live 1 mile in one direction and your friend lives 1 mile in another direction, you still just say you live 1 mile away from school. So we need to think about when we have absolute value bars, the numbers that go in make your equations true. So we're going to follow these steps as we solve these problems. Our first step is to isolate the absolute value expression. We'll use inverse operations if necessary, and we're going to set the absolute value expression equal to positive and negative values. And then we're going to solve both, and then we're going to remember that distance is never negative. Okay, so our very first one should be an easy question. This is just what number makes this equation true? So what number has an absolute value of 8? And that has two answers, x equals 8 and x equals negative 8. Now the next one, we have absolute value set equal to a positive, so we can just split it and solve it for the positive answer and the negative answer. So x minus 2 equals positive 6, and x minus 2 equals negative 6. And when we solve both, we'll get our two separate answers. X equals 8, and x equals negative 4. So if you plugged both of those in, 8 minus 2 is 6, its absolute value is 6. Negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6, its absolute value is 6. Our next one has absolute value with nothing else set equal to negative 9. So this is a no solution answer because absolute value cannot equal a negative. Okay. Now we're going to isolate the absolute value, then inside that we'll isolate the variable. So in this first one, it might be alarming that you see that this amount is set equal to negative 4, but our first step is to isolate the absolute value. So when we add 10 to that side, we're going to have the absolute value of 3x plus 9 equals positive 6, and that takes care of that. Now we're going to split them and solve for positive 6 and solve when it's negative 6. So 3x plus 9 equals 6 and 3x plus 9 equals negative 6. And we'll start subtracting. 3x equals negative 3. So on this side we have x is negative 1. And on the other side, when we subtract 9 twice, we'll have 3x is negative 15. So x is negative 5. Now these answers can be negative because when we plug them back in, we work them into an expression, find its absolute value, and make sure it satisfies the equation. So 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Add 9 to that would be positive 6. The absolute value of positive 6 is 6. 6 minus 10 is negative 4. So I know I did my work correctly. This next one has absolute value getting multiplied by 4. And I'm going to make a note here. Do not distribute. So we're not ever going to distribute into an absolute value bar. We're never going to divide out of an absolute value bar. If absolute value is getting multiplied by 4, we simply divide both sides by 4 to get rid of that factor. And then we'll be left with 4x plus 7 equals positive 4. And then we'll solve for positive 4. We'll solve for negative 4. So 4x plus 7 equals 4. And 4x plus 7 equals negative 4. And when we subtract 7, we'll have 4x equals negative 3. So x is negative 3/4. And then we'll do it again on the left side. 4x equals negative 11. Divide both sides by 4. X equals negative 11/4. And it's okay to have fractions. We're just going to leave our answer like that. Okay. Next up, here's my absolute value. It's getting multiplied, and then we subtract it by 3. So we'll add 3 first. Negative 2, absolute value 5x minus 1 equals negative 8. Now the negative 8 is going to go away because my absolute value is getting multiplied by negative 2. So when I divide both sides by negative 2, I'll have 5x minus 1 equals 4. So we'll solve twice. 5x minus 1 equals 4. And then 5x minus 1 equals negative 4. So I'll add 1. 5x equals 5. So x equals 1. And I'll add 1. 5x equals negative 3. And when we divide both sides by 5, x equals negative 3/5. Okay. Now again, our absolute value is getting multiplied by 3, so we're first going to get rid of the negative 8 with adding 7. So 3 times the absolute value of x minus 2 equals 15. And then we still have to isolate absolute value, so we'll divide both sides by 3. So x minus 2 equals 5. So we've got positive 5 on this side, negative 5 on this side. X minus 2 equals 5. So x is 7. And x minus 2 equals negative 5. X equals negative 3. We'll finish with our last one. So this is kind of a one special case. Sometimes an absolute value equation is set equal to 0 because we cannot make 0 positive or negative. We just solve it set equal to 0. So 4a minus 32 equals 0. This is just like solving a two-step equation. 4a equals 32. Divide by 4, divide by 4. A is 8. So if you plug the 8 back in or substitute it in for a, 4 times 8 is 32. 32 minus 32 is 0, and the absolute value is 0. So when it's absolute value set equal to 0, you're going to have one solution. Absolute value set equal to a positive number, you're going to have two solutions. And absolute value set equal to a negative number will be no solutions.